I got divorced after my ex-husband cheated because he fell out of love, lost my home, my job. Now I work as an escort, not by choice, but out of necessity, to provide a stable future for my daughter. If someone had told me 10 years ago that I'd end up here, double locking the door of a modest Airbnb rental after sending my daughter off to school, fixing my makeup in the dim lighting of a rented bathroom before meeting a stranger, I would have laughed, not out of mockery, but disbelief, because the life I imagined for myself was nothing like this. I grew up in a small town, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business, and gossip spread faster than wildfire. My parents were hardworking, salt of the earth types. My mom, an elementary school teacher, had a warm smile that made her beloved by every child in the school. My dad worked in construction, a tough man who rarely showed his softer side, but would go out of his way to help anyone in need. They'd been married for over 30 years when I left home for college, and I always believed their love was the model of stability. I didn't understand it at the time, but I would learn later that not everything looks the same up close. I married my high school sweetheart, Sean. He was charming and funny, the type of guy who could make everyone laugh, and I fell for him hard. We moved into a small house just outside the city. It wasn't anything fancy, just a two-bedroom with creaky floors and a stubborn faucet in the kitchen. But it was ours. We built a life there, filled with the noise of our growing family, the laughter of our daughter, and the hum of an ordinary, content existence. Or so I thought. We'd meet friends on weekends, enjoy backyard barbecues, and dream about our future. But looking back, I can see the cracks forming long before they shattered everything. The small fights over bills, the passive-aggressive comments about who did or didn't do what around the house, they were symptoms of something deeper. Something I didn't recognize at the time. Sean became distant. We weren't talking. I thought it was just the stress of life, but it was more than that. He was pulling away emotionally, and I couldn't understand why. I tried everything, going to therapy, planning spontaneous weekends away, changing the way I looked, hoping it would bring him back to me. But he wasn't coming back. The day he packed his things into the trunk of his brother's car, I stood there frozen. I wanted to scream, to ask him to stay, but all I could do was watch him go. That moment felt like I was standing outside of myself, looking in. I couldn't comprehend how the life we'd built had disintegrated so quietly. The realization hit me like a punch in the stomach. This wasn't just a rough patch, it was over. The first fall, as I call it, felt like a landslide. It didn't happen all at once, but each day felt like another piece of my foundation crumbling beneath me. I was suddenly a single mother, emotionally drained, financially exhausted, and lost. My daughter Lily was barely 4, a toddler with big brown eyes that mirrored my own. She didn't understand why Daddy wasn't there anymore. She'd ask questions I didn't know how to answer. Why didn't he want to live with us? Why didn't he love us? I'd smile, kiss her forehead, and tell her things would be okay. But deep down, I knew things were anything but okay. The second fall came after COVID. The pandemic wrecked everything. Our world turned upside down. My job at the marketing firm I'd worked at for years became a casualty of the restructuring wave. Middle management was an easy target. The higher-ups handed us polite severance packages with a side of best of luck and sent us out into the uncertain world. Suddenly, I wasn't just a wife with a broken heart. I was a woman who had no job, no backup plan, and a little girl to take care of. The job market was a battlefield, and I was unarmed. I spent hours on job boards, sending resumes that felt like empty bottles tossed into the ocean. I took interviews, dressed in ill-fitting suits, and smiled when I felt like crying. I was trying to keep it together, but each rejection felt like another layer of the life I thought I would have slipping away. My mom tried to help, but she had her own burdens. My dad, who'd always been the pillar of our family, had started showing signs of dementia. He'd forget things, appointments, conversations, even his keys. My mom was running herself ragged, trying to care for him while holding everything else together. I didn't want to add to her stress, so I kept my struggles to myself. I sold everything I could: the wedding ring Sean had given me, my laptop, and eventually the TV. The things that once symbolized stability now became the currency that kept us afloat. But it wasn't enough. I was drowning, and there was no life raft in sight. One night, long after Lily had fallen asleep beside me on the couch, I sat alone in the dim light of my living room, scrolling through Reddit. It was mindless, numbing. I wasn't looking for anything specific, but then I stumbled upon a post in a subreddit about paid companionship. The woman who had written it wasn't selling anything. She wasn't glamorizing the work. She just spoke candidly about her experiences. It wasn't a sob story or a rags to riches tale. It was just raw truth. I didn't know why I stayed on that post. Maybe it was the honesty in her words. Or maybe it was my desperation, that quiet, gnawing desperation that kept me up at night. I followed her breadcrumbs, reading more posts, exploring forums. I spent weeks lurking. I didn't say a word to anyone. I just learned. I read about the risks, the safety measures, the expectations, and the realities of escorting. It was a world I had never considered. Some of it made my stomach turn, but some of it made sense. One night I created a burner email. I used a name that wasn't mine, Jenna. I uploaded a photo, just a simple shot of my neckline, and made a profile on a site people recommended as safe. Within an hour, I had dozens of messages. Some were lewd, some were desperate. One man sent a photo I never wanted to see. Another wanted to pay me $50 to perform humiliating acts in a parking lot. I closed the laptop and didn't sleep that night. But when the morning came, I opened it again. There was one message that caught my eye. Polite. Simple. His name was Alex. He said he was older, recently widowed, and just wanted someone to talk to. No expectations, just dinner, just company. I didn't respond to right away, but I couldn't shake the message. There was something in his words that felt different. Something that made me feel like he wasn't the type to ask for more. I replied. It was a slow, cautious start. We agreed to meet at a restaurant. Public. Dinner only. The night of the dinner, my nerves were out of control. I hadn't worn that black dress in years. My hands shook as I put on mascara, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt this way, but I went. I had to. He was already at the table when I arrived. He was older than I expected. Gray hair, soft eyes, an aura of quiet sadness about him. He didn't look at me like I was anything more than just a person. He didn't make me feel like a commodity. We talked. We talked about books, about food, about grief. He didn't touch me once. At the end of the meal, he handed me a plain white envelope. I didn't open it until I was back in my car. Inside was $400 and a note that simply said, "Thank you for your time. You made today feel normal." I cried for 30 minutes before I could drive home. That money paid rent, it bought groceries, it bought a jacket for Lily, and fixed the brakes on my car. It gave me breathing room, and for the first time in months, I felt a tiny bit of relief. After that, things changed. Slowly at first, I stayed cautious. I vetted clients. I set boundaries, but over time, those boundaries shifted. There were things I said yes to that I never thought I would, and things I refused to do, no matter the money. I keep a notebook now. Every client, every meeting, date, time, location, safe words. I keep track of everything. I bought a second phone. My two lives are cleanly separated. Lily doesn't know. She sees me working, taking calls, leaving for meetings. To her, I'm just mom. The woman who bakes cookies, sings in the car, and kisses her forehead every night before bed. But some nights, after I've locked the door and wiped off the makeup, after I've counted the money, I sit in the silence and wonder who I've become. Sometimes I still wonder if I'll ever stop living between survival and shame. But every morning, I get up. I pack lunch, I braid Lily's hair, I smile, I make French toast even though we're running late. And I keep going, because sometimes survival is the most honest kind of love there is.